the main event by Alexis from Amplitude. We'll talk about driving retention and growth. And then we'll have another lightning lecture by Nimrod Levin from Dynamo. He's going to give a few really cool case studies and examples of how they're using data and how they're using Amplitude to actually drive value to themselves and also to their to present it to their investors. Okay, but you have to start with me, so that's how it's going to go. And here we go. Okay. So a bit about myself. I come from an entrepreneurial background. I've been in this business of startups. Okay, not working. Oh, it is. Okay, so I've done a few startups in my days. I'm in this field of product management and entrepreneurial, and startups for over 16 years now. I worked with a lot of companies. I'm going to go over this quickly. I was the founder of 4 startups, CEO of 4 companies, not necessarily the same ones. So I'm not used to working with the mic. What I do today I have a company called Y Perspective, which does product consulting, which recently we've kind of merged with a few other companies and for call it a syndication called a Product Alliance. Product Alliance is a firm that specializes in product consulting and optimization, mainly strategy and optimization. And this is something that we do for startups, for bigger companies as well. Again, the focus is mainly on optimization and strategy. I also mentor in a few different places, a few different programs. Oh, now I see that I can see it here. And I published a few articles. Some of them, by the way, in Mind the Product are very focused on analytics. And if you have time, by the way, of course, we're going to share this presentations, all the presentations here after the lecture, and you can have them there. You can see the links, and feel free to contact me and comment if you like. And the driving force behind me are these 3 monkeys. So I'm kind of like ahead of you, Nim, so I'm a parent first. And these 3 guys are my 3 boys, the driving force behind me. To those who were in the last meetup, we're not gonna say who it was about, but you probably remember that I had a cast on my leg, so I got better. You can feel like everything is improving. Okay, so let's get into business. So a few, 2 more minutes of your time of why I'm doing this, why do we have this meetup, and why did I have these guys come over here. So first of all, I'm a really strong believer in the power of analytics, in the power of data and the use of it. And what we see, and this is again part of the specialty of what I do and the services that we offer as well in Product Alliance. But what I see and what I think that can improve significantly, especially in Israel, because we are in Israel and we're talking to you guys, is that what I see today is that the usage of analytics and the usage of data is somehow being driven towards the whole data science and BI area, where it's not being utilized enough by product managers. This is something that I kind of strive to change, and I want to make this change and make this happen and make it better for us product managers to utilize these tools and give us more knowledge and more capabilities in this field. Okay, so again, like I said, it's all about data, but data doesn't necessarily have to be just that data specialists are the ones who are doing it. We want to empower product managers to be able to take control of data, and not just this data, but be able to utilize it and drive value through it. The reason why I'm having this event here, and this is part of like a series of analytics platforms and companies that we're trying to bring to Israel to give us to share with us their knowledge, is also to get, we look at, I don't know if you guys are seeing it, but I see it. I see our colleagues in Silicon Valley or even in the UK product managers, they have all these companies fighting over them and wanting to give them value and give them conferences and lectures and all of that. And it's something that we don't see that much in Israel. And what we want to do is we want to bring these companies, these really strong companies that are really product-oriented, like Amplitude, and give them, on the one hand, give them the platform to talk to us and educate us, but on the other hand, give us, like the food that we have here and make us feel like we're important and it's worthwhile to invest in us, and I think it is, okay? So that's my goal. And obviously some shameless self-promotion to promote my brand and my services, and whoever wants to reach out to me, now you know that I'm not shy about it. Okay, so let's get into it, okay? So what do we have in the analytics field, in the analytics scene? This is just like a quarter of the picture, a quarter of the circle that we have. Okay, we're not going to even talk about all the companies that are here. There are a lot of companies that are not here, a lot of platforms that are not here. Because we can see that like the variety and the choice that we have, that us product managers have to choose for, is always getting bigger and bigger, and there's a lot of companies who are out there and looking for us to use their services. Now, what does that mean? Theoretically, data-driven, or everybody wants to be data-driven. Every CEO wants to be data-driven. Every product manager wants to be data-driven. So, we have all these metrics and all these tools and all these investigation methods and all that. So theoretically, we should be killing it, right? In terms of, being data-driven, and every company should be data-driven and should be, really smart and sophisticated and value-driven through value. But what we see is that it doesn't really happen, right? I mean, we see that. We feel, especially as product managers, we feel a lot that we're frustrated. First of all, because it is part of our job, but we don't really get the training for it or the necessary, like how to use these tools, right? It's not something that we get trained in. But on the other hand, everybody expects us to know how to use these tools and be data-driven and to bring the value out of it. So what happens today? Okay, so I'm not going to go and start asking you guys, because this should be like a really lightning lecture. But what happens? What's the common practice in terms of data? How do we use data? So you guys could go like nod and say that, okay, you agree with what I'm saying, and I'll take it for you. But usually what happens, okay, if you get into a project and say, okay, now we need to implement Amplitude or whatever, some sort of analytics platform, usually what we do, right, we map out all the events in the app, website, whatever. We say, okay, let's make sure that we have everything there. We do what we call an event table, right? We write everything down, everything that should fire an event. We implement that event table. We release a version, and now we need to wait, right, to accumulate data, because without data, it's not going to help us, right? So just the event table doesn't give us any value. And then after we have that, after let's say like a month or so, now we go we dive into the data, we browse the data, trying to look for something, right? Does this ever happen to anyone? That he just opened his analytics or his mixed panel or whatever, like trying to look for Amplitude, whatever, just trying to look for insights, trying to understand what's going on. And if you do that, and if you're kind of like a bit with a broken record like myself, you can find yourself like days on just browsing through the data, browsing through the numbers, trying to understand what's going on. And that's a problem, because we usually what happens out of it is that we try to follow user trends, we try to follow their path, but it doesn't really work. Why? Because, and eventually, what we see, and what I see for, coming in as a consultant to many companies, I see that eventually, after a few months, all they're using is just some sort of dashboard to look at new users versus returning users, maybe a bit of funnels and stuff like that, but that's something too significant. Okay, and the problem is that this doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And we see a lot of companies, and I've talked to some of you guys here, and I've heard that expression, that we've tried using analytics, but we kind of gave up on it. Okay, we don't get enough value out of it. And it's usually not because it doesn't have, the tools don't have enough features. It's not because of that. So why? Why is that? Why is this happening? And why do I have this slide up there. So I think we have enough old people or people like at least my age that would get this slide. Who gets this? Who played the Lemmings? So these are all the older people here in the crowd. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that game, but there used to be a game called that. Look it up, look up Lemmings. But basically what we see everybody doing and making the same mistakes. Everybody doing the same mistake, and everybody jumping off the cliff and not being successful, and then not understanding why it's happening. Okay, and we hear all these reasons to why it's happening. But let's try to understand. Let's try to break it down, understand why we have a problem with analytics. Why does the common practice or the common call it method doesn't work? So first of all, what it does is it brings out and it makes us have hundreds of events. Now that's a problem because these events, even though we have a lot of them, they actually confine us. Why? Because when we look into a box of call it balls or whatever, something that's put into a box, we look within it. Okay, we try to find our data or find our insights within a certain box, and we don't get that. It confines us. It doesn't make us allow us to look outside the box in terms of thinking. Not necessarily allow us, but it confines our thought process. The second problem is that since we have so many events, those events usually tend to be very weak. And by weak, I mean we don't utilize enough properties or call it parameters or attributes, depends on the platform that you're talking about. But these are the types of again, properties that you use within an event. Okay, so with each event you can decide what else you want to fire, what other attributes, what other properties you want to give this event. And these are more like data points that give you information about the event and what it attributed. And those are very important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Usually what happens is that we don't use user properties, and user property is something that's very, very useful, something that can be very beneficial. And again, if we don't use that, we're kind of missing out on the capabilities that these tools have. This could be very, very costly if you're paying by data points. Okay, using a lot of events can make these platforms cost you a lot of money. And probably the most important thing is that it makes you postpone the most important thing, which are the questions, the strategic questions, the questions that make us think of what we really want to get out of the data, why we're doing this in the first place. And this is something that when we postpone this, we don't think about it in advance, and we try to look at the data and then try to think of the questions. And that is the opposite way of what we need to do, and it doesn't work. Okay? So, we're talking about this whole lecture is about strategy, and let's try to ask the question, is there a strategy around analytics? Do we need a strategy for analytics? We know that we need a strategy for business strategy, we need product strategy. A lot of people have come and talked about that, but do we need it for analytics? Now again, if you ask me, yes, we do. Why? Because of one simple question. Okay? And theoretically, there should be just like one bullet here. And that is, what is our goal? Okay? Analytics has to have a goal. Okay? It has to have a goal. We need to have a reason to ask ourselves why we're using this. Okay? And the answer for that should be business-led, should be product-led. We're using analytics to find a solution, to find an answer, to better understand what's going on, and that needs to be our goal. Okay, this raises the question, the very important the question of what's the difference between reporting and analysis. Okay, so analytics can be used for both, for either or for both. And I'm going to touch it really, really shortly, but it's a big difference. Okay, and Carly Fiorina, the former CEO of HP, she had this I really connected, see this is something that's really interesting what she said. She said, the goal is to turn data into information, and the second part is, and information into insight. If we just turn data into information, we've just done half of the job, okay, half of the work. If we don't turn that information into insight, then we're missing out. And that's the big difference between reports and analysis. Okay, reports are something that usually is used for, giving some dashboards to CEOs or to finance people or maybe even marketing. But for us, product people, and I'm talking to you as product people, we usually need to take action, action on the inside, action on the data that we find. And the only way to do that is to build the analytics in a way that will actually allow us to actually, if we ask the question of, okay, what is this data? What am I going to do with the answer to the question that I get? Okay, if I don't ask that, if I only report numbers and figures and conversion rates and whatever, usually it stays on that level. And what we need to strive to do is to have that data be actionable. So this leads us to what I call the right side up methodology. The right side up methodology basically says everything that we talked about before, like the common practice of how things are usually done, needs to change. And it needs to change exactly the other way around. So if we talked about it before, the fundamentals of the methodology that I'm preaching about is to first of all be very product oriented, okay, to think about it through a product point of view. And the second is to be very strategic in its approach. And what does it mean? It means that we start, remember how the common practice is usually we do is we start with tracking all the events, mapping all the events, and making sure that we track all of them. Now what I'm saying is that what we should do is start with the questions, start with the goals. Understand what we're doing, what are the goals, our business goals, our product goals, define to ourselves what we want to achieve, where we want to be. Then go down and say, okay, what are the metrics, the key metrics that are important to us, and those are the ones that we need to analyze, those are the ones that actually make an impact and are important to us, actually drive something that impacts the goals. From those we derive the strategic questions, the literal questions, not what's the conversion rate, but rather why are people dropping out? Where are people dropping out? What are the causes to things? Where, who, whatever, these types of questions. From there we go down to the investigation methods, and those are usually, either funnels or segmentations and all the types of different kind of features that these platforms offer. And we only the last part is the event table. Once you have all of that and you know everything that you want to do, all the questions, you derive them down to questions. From there, write down the event and say, okay, now I need to monitor this and this and that, and only then write the event table. So that's basically what it is. This usually starts with what we call a Northstar Metric, and Amplitude actually has a workshop about that. Maybe next time we bring you guys here, we'll have a workshop about Northstar Metric. But basically what it is, like the highlight or the North Star of that, is this quote by Adam Nash, which I really, really love. And basically what he says is that we need to understand what game we're playing and how do we keep score. And if we really understand that, understand what's the goal, what's the game, where do we play, what are the things that we're doing, and are they actually impacting what we do, okay? And what makes us keep score, and that's like the key metric. Really what we mean by that is, what are the key metrics? So we're talking about the product goals, and one top or key metric, and that's the one that's really, really important to us. And all the rest are the ones that say, okay, these impact the one key metric. But everything that we do must impact that key metric, okay? That's one methodology, and I really am a strong believer and supporter of that. Okay, it also includes progress indicators. These are not necessarily the top metrics, or they're absolutely not the one key metric, because there are a few of them, but these give us an indication that we're getting closer and going in the right direction. And when we talk about KPIs, we need to remember that KPIs need to be divided. Okay, because when we implement an analytics platform, we're not just doing it for us product people. Usually we're doing it there also, we have like business people within the organization, the CEO, finance, whatever, as product, and marketing, which usually have different needs and different things that they, they need, again, more on the reporting side of the analytics. So, analytics strategy, if we need to break it down into like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of how it works. So first, the important thing is, we need to understand where do we anticipate data-driven decisions are going to be made, what will make an impact at the one key metric that we just talked about, where should we look, how do we investigate in terms of which tool, funnels or segmentations or all different tools that we're gonna have the guys from Amplitude maybe talk about, or maybe Neil's gonna show us a few of them. And only at the end, what do we really need to measure? Okay, the last part, that's our analytics plan. That's what we write down, that's what we give to our developers to actually implement, but that's only the last part of the deal. Okay, so getting to conclude this, what do I believe in? Okay, so first of all, I believe in Bigfoot, as you can see, and I believe he lives. But again, in terms of my approach, or call it my philosophy, I'm a strong believer that features in terms of the features that the analytics platforms have, okay, those are tactical. Okay, you can be an expert on them, you can know how to use them, you can be the best in the world, but they're only features. If we're talking about strategy, the strategy that we use, the kind of questions that you ask, where you ask them, what you want to achieve, that's much more important. Okay, if you don't get that right, it doesn't matter which platform you use. You can use a really, really good and expensive one. You can use a really, really, cheap and or free and a lousy one that doesn't work. But again, if you don't get the strategy right, the rest are not going to make that much of an impact. And you're going to find yourself not using whatever you have because you're just not utilizing or extracting value out of it. In order to do that, first and foremost, we talk about the Northstar Metric, or the one key metric. It's really important that you get that one right. Ask open-ended questions that we talk about in just a few seconds. Okay, what is driving things? Where do people do drop off? Why or when? Things like that. Okay, not questions that their answer is going to be 3, 4, 5, or 27%. Right? And focusing on less. Okay, the key is less. The key is on focus. Okay, if you don't have too many events, it's much easier for you to focus and make sure that these events are done right, and you're extracting, you can follow these events and actually keep track of them and understand what's going on with it. If you find yourself with 100, 200, 400 events, you're going to find yourself pretty much lost. And then you're going to find yourself browsing through the data, days on and days on, and not getting the value out of it. And not what's important, but tactically, if you see and say to yourself, okay, the event table is going to be the last thing that I do, okay, only after I know everything, then it's going to make things much easier for you in terms of planning your analytics strategy. So that was pretty much it. A few things just, again, selfless self-promotion, or actually giving back to the community, however you want to see it. What we're offering, that's myself and my partners at the Product Alliance, we're offering 30 minutes free analytics consult, or an hour of product strategy reflection. If somebody wants to contact us and book this, let me know either through however you signed up, or look me up on LinkedIn or on our website. And that's pretty much it. Questions?